What's going on, everyone? Gilman with Wellthy Stocks, back with our daily Apple update video where we take a look at how Apple stock traded today, some key support and resistance levels that we are looking at moving into the future, and based on that, what we think Apple stock could do. But today is a special day, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know. It is Apple earnings day. We will take a look at how Apple did earnings wise. We'll take a look at some of the numbers, what that means for the stock moving forward. And then we will get to, our usual kind of stock support and resistance levels as well. So real quick, if you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me as I'm trying to grow, and comment down below what your thoughts on Apple are moving forward. I know that this earnings season was a little bit of, we were looking forward to it for a long time now. I was talking about it for like a month leading into it, and as we expected, right, numbers are pretty solid. So we'll take a look, but again, stock is down just a little bit. So as we expected on both the earnings results and how the stock was going to react. So let me hit record. We will get right into it. So as I said, right, we were down about $1.10 on the day, which is 0.77%. Down another, $1.50. It's changing because the earnings call is happening right now. I watched a little bit of it, and I figured I should make this video instead of just sitting there watching that, right? So got the stats for us though, so we'll take a look at that. But overall down day. Now today was a really heavy day for the markets, as I'm sure some of you guys know. The Nasdaq was down 2.61%, the Dow was down 600 points, which is 1.98%, and the S&P 500 was down 2.44% as well. So compared to that, Apple's red day doesn't seem too bad, right? But at the same time, it was a little bit of a red day. We tried to push up here to in the 144s, but couldn't quite sustain that, and saw some heaviness throughout the course of the day. So we'll come back to that in just a second. But what I want to cover first is their earnings. So this is just on Apple's page. Revenue was up 21% and EPS was up 35%, both of which are all-time records for Apple. Great news. And iPhone, wearables, and services set new revenue records. So let's get deeper into that with the CNBC article. If you want to look at it yourself, here's the article. Feel free to just look, or just, by this title, you can probably find it if you want to read a little bit more. So first things first, right? They had high expectations, but they were able to beat that. So we'll take a look at that, right? So this is the first time, right, that Apple has crossed $100 billion, that's billion with a B, in revenue, which is up 21% year over year. Absolutely phenomenal, right? I'm at a loss for words on kind of how to put that. Even after, some analysts raised their expectations from 103 billion, or 203 billion rather, we've got $111 billion in revenue. Talk about the $1.40 EPS. If you saw my video from a couple days ago, we were talking about a little bit of an increased price target for Apple because some analysts had raised their price target based on what they thought the EPS was going to be. And this $1.41 was the higher end of that EPS, and we got $1.68. So beat that, even though we had high expectations. These numbers here are key because they just show you where Apple is really growing, where a lot of their sales are coming from, where a lot of their growth is coming from, and therefore where a lot of their profitability comes from as well. So iPhone revenue is $65.6 billion versus $59.8 expected, which is a 17% increase year over year. If you guys have followed Apple for a little while now, you know that, after a while, the amount of people that were upgrading their phones started to plateau just a little bit. People weren't upgrading as fast as they used to because Apple was, at this point where they were doing like small adjustments, but nothing enough to really justify spending $800 on a new phone. Well, this year was a little bit different, right, with the iPhone 12 because we're talking about a 5G iPhone. So it's actual new technology, right? If you want to, take advantage of all what your network is offering you, really, right? You're going to need that phone, which was a great kind of move for Apple, and so that led to a little bit of a super cycle for Apple iPhone upgrades, like we talked about, right? Which led to a 17% year over year increase. So that's great for Apple. The other thing was their services revenue. And I think that this is, one of the key things that Apple has started to focus on a lot, right? So we're talking They were expecting 60 billion in phones, got 65, which is up 17%. They were expecting 14.8, got 15.76, and that was 24% year over year. And the reason that I think services are, kind of a big deal for Apple, because a lot of these services that they have, right? The Fitness Plus is a new service, but also with services, it's a recurring revenue, right? I personally bought an iPhone not too long ago. That was a one-time revenue for Apple. But if I have iCloud, I'm giving them $1 a month. I have been for the past couple of years now, and probably will continue to do so for the next couple of years at least, right? Until something better comes along. Same thing with their Fitness Plus plan, right? It's kind of like a gym membership, where if you have a gym membership, that's a recurring fee, right? So that's why services is a great deal, because more likely than not, these will continue to keep pushing up. Other products revenue, same thing, up 29% year over year, beat expectations. Mac revenue is 8.68 billion versus 8.69 estimated, right? So this is the only one where they didn't beat the estimates, but it was off by 0.01 billion, which I know is still a huge number, but compared to what they're beating this by, 5 billion plus beat here, almost a billion there, almost a billion, more than a billion there, right? 0.01 billion not beat is not a big deal, right? Still up 21% year over year. A lot of that was led by the new Mac containing the M1 chip, which, as they start to incorporate in more and more Macs, is going to mean more sales for Apple, hopefully, as people start to integrate that, right? And then the last thing being iPad being 41% year over year. And the reason that this happened, a lot of Mac and iPad sales, my assumption is that because of the coronavirus pandemic, a lot of people are working from home. A lot of schools are now from home. And so a lot of people are buying, PCs and iPads. So that could be the cause for this. And lastly, obviously, right, you can sell a whole bunch of products, but what's your gross margin? It was also higher than they anticipated, almost at 40%. We were at 39.8%. This, I know I just talked a lot, and I want to cover a little bit more. Apple is a company that I follow very closely, and I want to share a little bit of this with you guys. I know I cover the stock perspective from my daily, but, once a quarter I get to, really dig deep into a lot of this. So this is also really key for Apple. The Apple's total install base for iPhones is over 1 billion, which is up from the previous data point of 900 million. And they've got 1.65 billion products just right now that people are using. 1 billion of those are iPhones. So great news. As always, right? This is kind of what I talked about yesterday. Now, you can have the craziest quarter, right? Like Apple just did. But if you're not going to provide guidance, that's going to be something that the investors don't like, because look, investors buy into a company because of the future outlook of the company, typically not what they have done, right? A company can have the best 2020, but if their 2021 outlook isn't that great, investors are not going to want to be a part of that company, right? So that's something that I thought we were going to get this quarter. I read somewhere that we were going to get this quarter. We did not get this quarter, which is, I think, partially maybe the reason for this drop. We are now below 140. We were above that when I started this video. So that's something to kind of just keep in the back of your mind, right? What happened there. And then, we talked about this already. The iPhone 12 super cycle, iPhone revenue up 12%. Other products category, which is the Apple Watch, right? I've got one on my wrist right now. Headphones like AirPods, I'm sure a lot of us use AirPods, right? We're up 29% as well. The AirPods Pro Max, too expensive for me, but this is, services industry up 24% year over year, which is App Store, Apple Music, Apple TV, and all that good stuff, right? So the other thing is they are spending over $30 billion to give back to the shareholders out of, I think, the $36 billion cash that they got this quarter is the number I believe I saw somewhere. So that's great. If you hold Apple shares, we're getting a 20-cent dividend. It's not a lot, right? It's probably not one of the higher dividend percentages you could see, but hey, if you own a decent amount, right, and you hold them until I think it's like the first week of February, then you should get that dividend in the second week of February. So that's enough with earnings. Why are we still seeing a red day after hours? Why is Apple still falling after hours? We talked about this yesterday, but pretty much, right, it has to do with a couple things. The first one being that it's always, a lot of the times, not always, a lot of the times it is a run into earnings and a sell-off after. And I've been saying that for a while now, right? It's going to be a sell the news type of event, unless Apple comes out with something that we don't see. Now, although Apple did come out with, hey, we've got this beat, this beat, this beat, this beat, the fact that they didn't come out with guidance was kind of, a bad thing in here, because investors want to know how Apple is going to do, right? If we got a guidance that had a little hint of surprise to it, maybe we saw Apple keep pushing up. If we saw something with the Apple car, maybe Apple stock pushed up. So we still had a great quarter, and I'm still bullish on the company, but again, we were expecting a lot of these beats, right? So that's what's leading to a little bit of a sell the news. That, and you saw how red we were already, so the fact that we are still falling with the heavy markets today does not really surprise me too much. So let's take a look at how we traded today. We'll do a little bit of the stock analysis part of it, and like we usually do. So yesterday we closed in the 143s. And I talked about, us potentially making a push towards 145. And if we could clear 145, that sets us up nicely for 150. But it was clear from the beginning of the day that the markets were looking pretty heavy. Not sure why. It could have to do with the Wall Street bets on GameStop. Maybe a lot of margin calls were happening and people had to sell out of their positions. I don't really know, because I didn't see any big news pop up. But if you know, let me know down in the comment section, and I'd love to chat with you guys. But what we saw was right out of the gate, right? We didn't even make a push towards 145. We sold off, pushed up, VWAP rejection, and then bounce. Now, if you guys remember this, right? This is our level 141.92. It's been there pretty close over there. Missed it by 50 cents over here, went below it. We pushed up, we made a run towards 144. Again, the key was breaking 145 and then using 145 as a base. We couldn't do it in the pre-market, as you guys saw, right? We hit up against 145, came right back down. Same thing here, couldn't make it, so we fell all the way, and guess what? We bounced right at that 141 level. If you take a look at that line, right? Perfect bounce. Pushed up, and then we were riding VWAP, and then we saw a little bit of a sell-off in the second half of the day, in the last couple of hours, which, if you guys see, we hung out around our level for a little bit now, sold off, and then pushed up into the close. So yes, it was a red day, but our level really nicely got validated, which I always like seeing. It's a little bit of a good thing in a red day, right? Things didn't go as planned, but hey, we've got something to look forward to if we push up in the future, right? So now let's take a look at what our future levels of support and resistance are looking like. We are right here at 139, okay? It's gonna change a little bit, but let's take a look at what we have coming from a support and resistance level perspective. So on the downside, we've got this 138.43, which we visited already and bounced, right? So I want to see how that level holds up. That level is at 138.43, and then we've got 136.05 right behind it if we keep falling. So those are the two immediate, again, that's not where we ended. We're kind of right here, right? So 138.43 first level, and then 136.05 second. And then if I bring the EMAs on, we've got the 138.10 also being the A EMA, which is something that we like seeing. So again, first level that I'm looking at is the 138, or excuse me, is this 138.40s level, which again, we're only 60 cents away from, so totally could hit that even tonight. And then 138.10 is the first EMA. Now, if we keep falling, we could go to 136.05, right? And after 136.05, we could drop all the way to the 133s. Now, remember, that's also where the 21 EMA is, so that's a really, really good level of support that I think Apple stock should hold. And yes, that's a steep drop, but if you take a look, we were there just 4 or 5 trading days ago, so it's not as crazy as it sounds. We were there a lot, closer than we think we were. So again, on the support level, we've got this 138, which is also the A EMA in the 138.10. We've got the 136.05, and then we've got this level 133.45, which is also close to our EMA in the 133.64. If we keep falling, we've got another support right behind it in the 132s, and then one in the 131s if you guys see my chart. But I think that hopefully the 21 EMA will kind of be where we find support in the 133s if we go to that level. Remember, that's still a $6 drop. On the upside, right, obviously we've got this 140 level to kind of take on, and then once we can get to that 140 level, the next level would be this 142. And as we saw, right, we were above it, so we were bouncing from it. I think that since we are below it now, that could act as a little bit of a resistance. If it does, we're going to need a little bit of momentum and a push to get through that. But after we can get through this 142 level, high 141s level, then we've got, this high of 144 to push for before we can make a push at 145, an all-time high. But I do think with the way the market's traded right now, I mean, if we take a look at S&P 500, it broke not only below the 8, but also the 21, hitting up against the 34 EMA, which is kind of scary. So looking at the S&P 500 to see how that holds, and hopefully we don't just see, sell-off happening for the rest of this week as well. But again, I do think, as we see right now, right, a little bit of a sell the news, even though Apple had a great quarter as we sort of expected. But I think, we could, hopefully, maybe we find support in the 8 EMA 138s, but realistically, if we keep going, we could fall all the way to the 21 and the 133s. And then we've got this 136 as a level of support as well. I do think, again, I was not in any options positions for this very reason of A, sell the news, and B, in case we saw, we are going to see the IV crush, but in case we saw a fall, which we did, and then the IV crush, that's why I was not in any option contract, but I continue to hold my shares because I'm long-term bullish on Apple. And I think after we can establish a base and after the markets can turn around, which recently they've been pretty fast, but maybe we see a little bit more of a sell-off, because if we take a look at the S&P 500, right, the last couple times we've dipped below it and bounced off the 34. The next 2 days were nice, but we'll see how it is this time around, right? So I'll keep you guys posted on that. Let me know what your trade plan with Apple is. Hopefully, if you guys were in options, long calls, you were able to get out of them before today. But if not, who knows? Maybe we see a turnaround soon. But let me know down in the comment section how you guys are doing with Apple, and I'd love to chat with you guys down there. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Let's remember to be a bit better every single day, and until next time.